San Francisco, America's favorite city for a vacation, a convention, a new lease on life. The city that knows how. Faced with one of the highest concentrations of the most deadly and controversial diseases in the history of modern man, San Francisco is learning how to care. Hi, I'm Corey McCormick, and I'd like to introduce to you just a few of the many generous volunteers and support organizations that have answered the challenge to address the needs of a community in crisis. Considered a model community in healthcare for people with AIDS, it is the attention to details of living that makes San Francisco's efforts truly unique. For the people fighting a life-threatening illness, the basic tasks that the healthy take for granted, like preparing a meal, can become overwhelming. Ruth Brinker speaks for Open Hand.
Our function is to provide 2 meals a day to people with AIDS and severe ARCs. The people that we serve are people that are so debilitated that they very often have to give us keys to their apartments because they haven't the energy to get up and answer their doors. We try to provide very good nutrition. They are given a bag lunch, and the sandwich in the bag lunch is always made of Tasahara bread, and everyone in San Francisco knows how good that is.
Best.
Yes. And 2 pieces of fresh fruit, a salad, and a dessert. And the dinner entree is packaged in an aluminum foil container so that if it does need to be reheated, it can be done very easily and very quickly. And that consists of 5 or 6 ounces of some kind of protein, 1 or 2 fresh vegetables lightly cooked so they haven't lost their vitamin content, and then a carbohydrate, potatoes or rice or pasta. And we never use processed potatoes. All of the food we use is natural food. We don't use processed anything. I think I've mobilized all the caring people in San Francisco virtually. I have a tremendous volunteer force. We have a full-time cook in the kitchen now. We do this 7 days a week. So many people out there that have made it very clear to me that this is a very necessary, a very desperately needed program. People have told me that before we started the program, they would have to prop themselves up by the stove to try to open a can of soup and warm it. They would have to make a choice between whether they should open the window or go to the refrigerator and see if there was any food there. They didn't have the energy to do both. And there have been times when we've delivered meals and people have crawled to the buzzer. They didn't have the strength to stand up, you know, they crawled to the buzzer to admit the person. And so people like that simply can't be deserted, you know.
Whereas nutrition and sustenance are elemental for the ill, less obvious but perhaps no less essential is access to the information regarding the latest developments in research, treatment, and alternatives. One of the objectives of Project Inform is to assist people with AIDS in locating the information they need in a body of print that is no less than mountainous and much more confusing. One of Project Inform's coordinators, Joe Brewer.
The project has as its principal focus dissemination of information to people who are interested in having it. Our principal value is the belief in the right to information on treatments among those who are affected by the illness involved. We operate a hotline with 800 numbers around California and the United States, over which we give out basic information. However, anything in depth is done through the mails. People request it and we mail it out. Typically these days we are handling around 70 to 90 calls a day and mailing out 40 to 50 packets of information. The information includes things on how to think about treatment, treatment strategy, how to get to Mexico and procure the drugs, and all while honoring the rules of customs and in the United States, as well as specific information on the drugs that we handle. The drugs that we deal with meet 3 criteria. One is they are available. You can get hold of them either by crossing the border in Mexico, through your doctor, or some other way in the United States. Number 2, they are chemical medical treatments, holistic approaches, and other types of treatments are being well handled by other people. So we're limiting our efforts in this direction. The third is that there be some safety data, real good safety data, so that we know that the drugs can be used in certain ways carefully with safety. And then we look for efficacy data. So we want to see some efficacy data, safety data. They've got to be there. It's in the realm of chemical and medical, and they are available to people. At that, people getting information from us get just that information: how to get it and how to use it, what it's for, and how to think about the combinations of treatment, which is the consensus as to what's necessary for treating AIDS. When I say a combination of treatments, I mean this. The magic bullet hypothesis or approach is no longer seriously considered by anyone now, whereas there may be disagreement as to how early on treatment should be begun, as to whether you should be treated if you're HIV positive or just what. A point on which everyone does agree is that there will need to be an antiviral approach to the disease, as well as an immune stimulating approach. In other words, you're going to need one chemical to curtail the virus, slow it down or kill it, and you're going to need another chemical to stimulate the immune system into producing enough T cells to keep you well in the future. This information, interestingly, has become of considerable interest to physicians around the country and in San Francisco. We're getting an increasing number of calls from doctors and medical centers wanting to know which drugs are good for what, how to use them. They're looking to us for dosage information as well as procurement. There's never been a flagging of interest on any of our parts, however, in terms of the importance of what we're doing. This is perhaps not unusual in working in this epidemic in almost any capacity. But we continue to be amazed by the fact that whereas we thought that surely by now the right kind of research and a coordinated research plan would be in effect, we find that a year and a half after we opened our doors, it's still not going on. Key treatments being used by hundreds or thousands of people, are in some cases still not being researched, even in the most basic of ways. There's still no group in Washington with the FDA, with NIH, with NCI even, that is coordinating treatment research. Plenty of basic research, plenty of epidemiological research, plenty of research into how it's affecting heterosexuals and drug users. Next to nothing, in fact nothing, government-sponsored in terms of how to save the lives of the people who are infected at this point. We just found out in San Francisco recently that upwards of 70% of those infected with the virus will become actively symptomatic with ARC or AIDS infections after 7 years of exposure. That particular researcher, Paul O'Malley, has said in private that he would not release the data on the 8th year because he felt it would simply be too frightening to people. You see, the formula has changed. Before, it looked reasonable to stay put, see if you develop symptoms, and then treat yourself. Now the thinking has to be different. Now the thinking has to run like this. If I get AIDS and start treatments then, it's almost certainly too late. How far back from there do I have to start treatments for it to not be too late? More and more is appearing that early treatment, the earliest you can get yourself into treatment, the better are your chances for not succumbing to this illness.
There are other, more elusive needs that a person with AIDS encounters. How to communicate the fear and anger, the frustration and futility that often follow a diagnosis. How to record hopes and dreams. How to leave a mark, stay productive and self-motivated. By coordinating art classes for people with AIDS, Joseph Durant tries to channel energy in creative and positive ways.
The classes began after I took care of my friend Tony, who died about 2 years ago, just before Thanksgiving, and he pretty much withered away in front of the TV set, and I really wanted to see an end to that kind of thing happening with people with AIDS. I see art as a way of empowering people and giving them a chance to be creative in whatever context that could mean. In this case, what I do is with visual arts. So I conduct classes for people with AIDS specifically, involving art, and a lot of what we deal with is the figure. There are a lot of aspects of the figure that are very interesting, can be very applicable to a person's life. People with AIDS have a lot of issues around body image and boundaries, and the confusion that comes along with the disease can sometimes really contribute to that greatly. So working with the figure makes a lot of sense in a lot of different ways. This is a project I brought to Artists for Community Life based on my experience with people I've known with AIDS, and wanting to do something that would allow me to do my art abilities and my training in art directly with people with AIDS in the community, again, to empower them and give them a sense of purpose. And I think that the accomplishments one gets in art can transfer over into creative thinking into other areas of one's existence. Artists for Community Life is basically a social organization within San Francisco that's come together around the AIDS crisis. And we have done a couple of art shows that have been very successful around AIDS and well-being. Part of the motivation for doing the classes has been to give people a chance to quit thinking about their disease, and I make a real effort not to treat them like sick people because I don't see them that way. They're my students, and I'm learning from them probably as much as they're learning from me, if not more. And we do talk a lot, and we keep each other in check about our various roles. I see this as a chance not to be involved in therapy because these people are so bombarded with physical therapies and mental therapies and this therapy and that therapy. It's a chance for them not to be involved in any of that, to simply take the afternoon to draw or paint and relax.
The people we have spoken to thus far represent organizations that have been created specifically to address the needs of people with AIDS. Begun in 1974 to assist the ill, their friends, and families cope emotionally and practically with life-threatening diagnoses. The Shanti Project predates the AIDS epidemic. In direct response to the growing community need, Shanti focused their efforts for people with AIDS and now provides many services for the ill and their loved ones. Services such as those enumerated by Ty Foley.
We are there to maintain a quality of life that most people are already accustomed to, and we do that in 5 different programs. The first program being emotional support, which provides one-to-one counseling to people with AIDS, as well as their friends, families, loved ones, significant others. We have a practical support program, which provides home care, like cleaning, laundry, doing errands, things like that. And we also have a residence program, which gives housing to people with AIDS. The 2 other programs that we have are the Information Referral Unit, which is pretty much known internationally as a AIDS Resource Center, and we have the paid professional counselors at the San Francisco General Hospital who are there for the patients. It may be their first time in the hospital, and they're also there for like visitors, such as their parents. That may be the first time that their parents know that they're gay.
I think ideally we would need Shanti projects if our culture, if our world dealt with death and dying more directly as part of the living process. But unfortunately we don't live in that type of world. Therefore organizations like Shanti have really shot up across the United States and around the world.
About a week after I got diagnosed, I turned towards Shanti. Not really knowing what I wanted or what Shanti could give me, but somehow feeling there was support out there I could reach out for. And I went to my first emotional support group for people with AIDS about 10 days after I got diagnosed. And my heart was beating, and went with another friend of mine who also had AIDS, and we both said right away, we only go here one time because, you know, we check it out and then that will be it. As usually when I go into these situations, I was the first one who got asked to talk, so my heart almost stopped at that point. And I've not stopped talking since then, actually. The meeting went very good. I got a lot of support. Just the feeling to be in a room with about 10, 12 people who have AIDS and pretty much in the same situation was pretty amazing for me and gave me a lot of strength.
To sit in a room full of anywhere from 60 to 70 people who don't have AIDS, who are willing to put their time and their energy out there to help someone who's, you know, someone who's in need and someone who's suffering, really uplifted me tremendously.
It seems kind of selfish to say that I probably get maybe more out of it for myself than what I give to other people. The people that my clients, the people that I work with, give me an awful lot. They, not only do they become my friends, but they become a very important part of my life.
The Shanti Projects concerned with well-being and support are echoed on the physical plane by Irene Smith. A familiar face on the AIDS ward at San Francisco General Hospital, Irene touches people with AIDS not only with her hands, but also with her heart.
Touch brings a balance into the day because it brings pleasure and good feelings, which helps to relieve pain. Massage also brings back awareness to the physical boundaries, which is of great service in moments of confusion or disorientation, because it gives a person an actual physical point from which to center. It also stimulates the flow of blood and lymph, our two main systems for filtering toxins from the body, and helping to eliminate toxins from the body. Massage can help to reduce a lot of symptoms in our daily lives. Headaches, backaches, leg cramps, insomnia, nausea, dizziness are only a few. There are also multiple psychosocial benefits of massage, because touch is love and it's care and it's an actual connection of life from one to another. So it helps to ease feelings of fear and isolation. As a touch person, we can model to friends and lovers and family that it's okay to touch one another and that it's okay to stay connected and to stay close to the patient, which is very important. Sometimes you find a very close network of friends, but there's a level of fear about actually being connected to someone that looks frail or ill, if you will. And massage also helps to instill a more positive body image, which may be lost due to debilitation. I want to stress that all of the healing modalities that we're hearing about today are not just for people with AIDS, they're for everyone. And by everyone taking advantage of the information about our bodies and the information about healing that is coming out, is the way that we're going to establish a new, healthy, creative, loving way in which to live and relate to one another, which I feel is the way that we're going to put an end to lifestyle diseases. So I want to stress for people not to wait until you get sick to think about healing. Healing is prevention. And I want to stress that it's not just me and it's not just Ray. There are 11 massage volunteers in the Bay Area hospitals working through the AIDS Emergency Fund. And like I said, there's 28 for hospice. And there's a whole network of massage people all over the city involved in reaching out and sharing the communication of touch with people with AIDS and others.
With a concern as all-encompassing as the AIDS epidemic has become, every effort to feed, inform, guide, and touch people with AIDS is appreciated and deeply felt. There remains, however, an essential element of day-to-day living to be provided for people with AIDS. Against all odds and contrary to the daily barrage of increasingly dire predictions, The AIDS Healing Alliance recognizes the need for hope.
Essentially, what the AIDS Healing Alliance is committed to do is to dispel the myth that AIDS has to be fatal. At this point, there's very little being promoted anywhere that says anything different. And we feel it's essential. Until people can believe that they can live with an AIDS diagnosis, that they can live and not die, then they'll continue to die. Just as people who got a cancer diagnosis 10 years ago died as surely as anything and aren't today as much so. We feel that's the truth about AIDS.
The AIDS Healing Alliance and the Metaphysical Alliance teach us that the body is more than just a physical thing. And this is very important because traditional medicine pays attention to the physical body and tries to heal the physical body and forgets the dynamic of the mind and the spirit, which are very important to body balance and healing. When one meditates and visualizes, it's possible to relax the body, to strengthen the body, to stimulate the immune system, to stimulate the glandular system towards healing. So in the healing process, it's very important to pay attention to the spiritual attitudes, affirmations of love, to rid the body of fear and anger. Imagery, visualization, meditation are all effective ways to do this.
So we do public forums in which we try to offer examples of people who are taking power in their lives and taking some control of their health and their physical care. We're also starting to do small discussion groups on nutrition and enhancing the immune system, on body work and its relation to emotional health, and on visualization and meditation. We'd like to do small discussion groups on a variety of topics, and as we get the people who can facilitate them, we will. Our idea is to provide opportunities for people to get together and talk about their concerns about these things that are new to them, to share with each other, to bring it down to earth and out of the books and out of the big formal speaking situations.
To begin with, I don't think you have to die with AIDS. I can only tell you my story. At my house, the telephone rings, and I answer it, and sometimes it's someone from Seattle, sometimes New York, sometimes all over the United States, and they heard that I haven't died yet. I think that it's up to each individual. You can't expect the doctor to do it. It's a job. It takes minute to minute, hour to hour. You have to put your entire energy into curing yourself and helping yourself and not do anything that's going to negate this. That's my primary message. I just don't think we have to die with AIDS.
I was diagnosed in February of 1982 with KS, Kaposi sarcoma, and began chemotherapy in March of 1982. I also felt that I wanted to do an alternative therapy, and I began acupuncture in March of '82, and I continued doing acupuncture every 2 weeks for a year and a half. And by doing this, I felt that I had some control over my illness, that I made a decision of my own about what kind of therapy I wanted to do. The doctors had chemotherapy at that time, which was recommended, the vinblastine chemotherapy, which was low in toxicity. And I agreed to do that, and I did that for 4 months in 1982. After 2 months of the chemotherapy, my cancer stabilized, and I began alpha interferon treatments in August of '82 and have continued with those up to the present time. Every 3 weeks I go to the hospital and I pick up my interferon, and I give myself injections at home before bed at night, 5 days in a row, every third week. I have also liked using vitamin C. I feel that that's been helpful. In the first couple of years after my diagnosis, I did about 12 grams a day of time-release vitamin C. That was and a multiple vitamin. And then also got into visualization about that time, along with the acupuncture.
Among the most important things were vitamin C. I also did megavitamins and still do megavitamins of all the vitamins that are necessary. Followed a good vegetarian diet. I now eat fish. I did everything possible that was anti-cancer, knowing that KS is part of this disease.
They practiced relaxation techniques, meditation, visualization. They took charge of their lives and they changed their lives. And it was that process, that mere decision to change, that began their healing.
The negative headlines, all the obituaries can contribute to a feeling of failure and depression, and so one has to keep reminding oneself that you are unique as an individual, and you can find within yourself the reservoir of hope, and each one has to find his own strength and what works for him.
Diversity, a characteristic long associated with San Francisco, a characteristic emblematic of the volunteers and people with AIDS we've spoken to this evening, and the hundreds of other volunteers of these and other organizations which time has made it impossible for us to introduce or even enumerate. What's important for us to recognize is the refusal common in all of these hard-working, understanding people to be passive about a crisis in their community. The Random House Dictionary defines hero as a person, in the opinion of others, has heroic qualities or has performed an heroic act and is seen as a model or ideal. And while making a sandwich, doing the laundry, teaching, touching, hoping, and sharing may not seem heroic in the opinions of others, they are, all of them, heroes.